Let me begin by commending the governor for requesting this critically important inquiry into what our residents should expect from our state's regulated providers of electricity. And thank you, Abby, for including me in this initial kickoff. Let me just make clear that people understand that while I have the privilege of serving as president of our county council and chair of the Energy Committee, I am speaking solely as an individual on my own behalf. I do have a bit of a background in this work. I've spent the past 38 years at the intersection of energy policy and public utility law as a staffer like you, as a lawyer that had the privilege of serving with Mr. Jimison as my partner for many years, and as an elected official. So I bring all of those perspectives to bear in this conversation. And one other important one, I represent a community that has suffered the most from the lack of reliable power for many, many years. My views are obviously reflective of that experience. So please forgive me if you find this to be a rather tough conversation from my perspective. The grant of a monopoly franchise is an extraordinary privilege. Utilities are insulated from the kind of competitive pressures faced by almost every other business and are guaranteed the opportunity to earn a fair rate of return. In exchange for those unique privileges, utilities are expected to provide reliable service. Regrettably, in Montgomery County, that essential aspect of the regulatory compact has not been honored. For a distribution company that no longer runs generation, their most basic mission and obligation is to provide and deliver power on a reliable basis. It is a sine qua non of their job. If a utility demonstrates that it is incapable of providing reliable power, it calls into serious question the very basis for its franchise. The cost to our citizens and our state, financially and beyond, of an unreliable distribution system is simply not acceptable. What we know in Montgomery County is that Pepco's substations are still vulnerable, their transformers too old, and the wires susceptible to weather events. The net result has been that our county has had some of the least reliable power in the country, and some would argue in the world, since 2006. It is, quite frankly, an outrage. Today, I represent a population of people who have totally lost trust in their local utility company. And the evidence is everywhere, from YouTube songs to the springing up of grassroots movements such as Pack Up Pepco. Imagine having to look at the weather every day, seeing forecasts for thunderstorms, and wondering whether it might be too great a risk to spend your hard-earned money on groceries, because a forecasted thunderstorm may also forecast a power outage. Or looking at the forecast and seeing that it's going to be a sunny day, and still having to worry if you will lose power. I came here this afternoon after being in Poolesville, Maryland, an agricultural community. I went there, and the first person I saw was a farmer who had a Pepco truck in his farm, his dairy farm, and said, "Roger, this is just not okay. If he does not have power on a reliable basis, he cannot run his dairy." It's not just the people of Bethesda that are screaming about this. It's not just Down County, Montgomery County. It is all aspects of our economy and our people. This touches everyone's lives. The cumulative effect of so many outages over so many years has led to this moment where people are yelling from the rooftops, "We can't take it anymore." And they should not have to. We should never have been in this situation. Pepco knew its system was falling apart, but made the decision not to invest in it, and did not even spend what was authorized for its reliability budget. At the same time, as the chairman has forthrightly acknowledged, the commission itself did not fully appreciate the extent of Pepco's unreliability 5 years into its lowest quartile performance. It is no wonder that Pepco was voted the most hated company in America, and that our people question our state's willingness to hold Pepco and their shareholders accountable. While Pepco's performance and credibility remains very much at issue, I personally believe that the Commission has begun taking steps to staunch the erosion of public confidence in its capacity to regulate Pepco. Its latest decisions One, to reject all but the legally required rate increase sought by Pepco and reduce its return on equity, and the other, to reassess whether Pepco can recover 24 hours worth of lost revenue during extended outages, demonstrate to me that the Commission understands the magnitude of the situation and the urgency in taking meaningful steps to address it. I commend them for their recent actions. Moreover, we are poised to make substantial progress on reliability itself. As a result of the reliability legislation sponsored by Delegate Feldman, supported by the Governor, and passed by the Legislature, the Commission's own initiation of this work, the Commission has put in place reliability standards that for the first time hold our utilities accountable for meeting key metrics for reliability. By 2015, assuming compliance, and it should not be hopeful, it should be assumed, Pepco should at least be providing power as reliability as its neighboring utilities. But the remedies implemented to date only take us part of the way there. It remains an open question, and Raj spoke to it, as to what level of reliability the citizens of Montgomery County should expect and the state should be mandating for Pepco. I am told that in Germany, whose economy is among the strongest in the world, they measure outages for the entire year in minutes. They had a bad year last year. There were 9 minutes of outages during the year. 9 minutes, not hours, not days, not weeks. Outages aren't even on their citizens' radar, a stark contrast to Montgomery County, where power outages have become the #1 threat to our quality of life. Germany's density of trees is the same as Montgomery County's, and yet its utilities lead the world in reliability. It has been argued that highly reliable electric service will increase rates. Yes. But what is equally clear is that unreliable service is more costly, costing our economy literally billions of dollars and threatening our health, welfare, competitiveness, and peace of mind. And given the general state of the economy, there has never been a better time to make an investment in our infrastructure. Further, energy prices are low as a result of generous supplies of natural gas, which I believe accounts for most of the reductions that Raj pointed to, not distribution rates, but energy prices. And interest rates are as low as you can ever hope for and will be for the foreseeable future. This is the time to make a substantial investment. That said, we would be ill-advised to ignore the costs. Pepco has estimated the cost of its reliability upgrades at upwards of $900 million. And that does not include significant undergrounding, which is now properly being seriously reconsidered. It is a cost comparable to the cost of other essential infrastructure improvements so critical to our state and county, such as the Purple Line, the Corridor Cities Transitway, and a new rapid transit system. And like other projects, we must meet the infrastructure needs of our citizens that we know are absolutely essential to our future. There are creative options for how our reliability enhancements are funded. In the traditional utility model, the utility makes the investment, and the investment then becomes part of its rate base, upon which it earns a generous return. That may not be the least expensive or efficient way to bring about the improvements we seek. We should explore all financing options, including the potential to combine government's access to less expensive capital with utility billing to recover the costs. And finally, it must be said in the case of Pepco, it should not be presumed that ratepayers will be on the hook for all of the costs of upgrading the system. The Commission has stated that Pepco's shareholders should share in those costs to the extent that they are the result of Pepco's past imprudence in allowing its system to fall into such disrepair. But while our focus is initially and properly on reliability, reliability is not simply burying power lines. Reliability issues are themselves a serious symptom of a far broader set of issues, issues that in their totality underscore the utter failure of our current utility model. That conclusion, as provocative as it may sound, is inescapable if you list the qualities our residents and businesses should expect when it comes to electric service. Here's a partial list of the qualities of service we should expect and receive from a provider of electricity. Reliable, efficient, green, distributed power at competitive rates from companies that are attentive to their customers and have entrepreneurial qualities. Looking at that list, I would argue that we have none of the essential qualities that we should receive from our state provider of electric service, or at least Pepco. If you come to that same conclusion, then I submit that we really have to step back and ask how we might change the utility model to achieve the goals we collectively seek. What is encouraging is that we do not really need a lot of technological breakthroughs. We can have everything on that list, but our constituents have no trust in our current utility, and I have even less faith that our current utility model can get us there. We need a new utility model. We need a utility that our constituents can trust to implement it. We need Utility 2.0. Our current system is not on target to achieving the reliability we should expect, and I would suggest it is not using electricity efficiently either. Under the governor's leadership, we've made significant strides in reducing our peak demands, but we have not made comparable strides in increasing energy efficiency. And the most cost-effective approach to reducing energy use, utility bills, and greenhouse gases is energy efficiency. And there is scant evidence that even after the Commission took action to decouple Pepco's financial fortunes from conservation efforts, that Pepco has become a real partner in reducing energy consumption. Until we have a utility that is committed to energy efficiency financing programs, it will be difficult for our citizens to retrofit their homes and businesses to make the progress that we need. In addition, our focus on substations, transformers, and overhead lines should not obscure a critically important and larger reliability issue: the centralized distribution grid itself. Producing coal in a central place and transporting that power great distances through a grid that is vulnerable to storms seems to be an increasingly risky proposition in the face of greater storm intensity due to climate change. It is also vulnerable to other serious threats, as we have fortunately not experienced, such as potential cyber attacks. In the past, the economies at scale strongly supported a centralized system, but today, with an aging grid, we have to make a decision between rebuilding the old system or moving to a more distributed energy model, one that relies on combined heat and power, storage, microgrids, and renewables such as photovoltaic rooftops. Recent reports by leading global consulting firms such as McKinsey and others argue that rebuilding our current grid in the same form will lead to unsustainable rate increases for over the next 20 years. And our friends in Germany, Denmark, and Japan have shown that distributed energy is more reliable, and the scale that they have created has led to significant cost reductions in solar and other technologies. This leads many of us to believe that significant market penetration is not just possible, but affordable. Our state policies and regulations already mandate the deployment of these technologies by 2022, but implementing them in a comprehensive reliability plan will reduce the costs and accelerate deployment. If we are poised to spend upwards of $1 billion on a utility infrastructure, let's not put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Let's build a new dynamic system that reflects our values and the requirements of a 21st century. It has been said that utilities today are like the black rotary phones of old. That is certainly true of Pepco. We desperately need a fresh dose of entrepreneurialism, a system that Steve Jobs would be proud of. That isn't a quality that utilities in general or Pepco specifically are known for. To get it, we are going to need to seriously explore unbundling the system so that entrepreneurs can bring their creativity and talents and services to the people of Montgomery County. We cannot allow Pepco's control over the wires to limit our access to higher quality services. In sum, I represent a county that, for good reason, has lost faith in our local utility company. That means our state will need to be both more proactive in creating Utility 2.0 and more forceful in holding Pepco accountable. And while this may be the sole responsibility of the Commission, I can assure you that all of us who serve the public are held accountable for Pepco's unacceptable quality of service. More broadly, we need to rethink both what we expect from our utilities and the institutional arrangements that will bring about what we want. Fortunately, there are a lot of good, smart people within the region who have the expertise and share a commitment to help us craft a new, more reliable energy future. One such person is John Jemison, who serves as Managing Director for the Energy Future Coalition. The Energy Future Coalition is the leading organization in the country focused on those sets of issues. They recently hosted a discussion on this very topic, and I am confident that with their facilitation and a lot of hard work, our state, and specifically Montgomery County, could become a model for the nation. It is work of the utmost importance to the welfare of our citizens and needs the kind of forward thinking that our governor has demonstrated time and time again. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.